Joining us now to discuss the legal consequences here, CNN Justice correspondent Evan Paris, our crime and justice reporter Shimon Prokopez, and CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor Shan Wu. What next is a big question in all of these cases, and in the middle of that, the president tweets today criticizing Michael Cohen, who decided to cooperate and tell his story, and praising Paul Manafort for not breaking. What do you read into that?
I think you're right. I think that's the hang in there Paul Manafort tweet, right? That is a tweet that is signaling to Paul Manafort that there's a pardon waiting for him. We know that there have been those discussions between the Trump team and Paul Manafort's team in the early parts of this proceeding. And so what the president is reminding Paul Manafort that if you hang in there and don't do what Michael Cohen has done, things are going to be okay. And I think that is the clearest signaling we've seen from the president of what is to come. I think you're right that the idea that the danger of Paul Manafort turning is something very much on the president's mind, and I think that's what you're seeing.
And it's the language. Forgive me. It's the language of an organized crime family. Don't break.
The other day, he used the word rat in a tweet, right? Where have we heard such things before? It's mob talk, right? Mobsters talk that. Right. Gotti used to say things about people who would turn on him and call them rats. Essentially, he's calling Michael Cohen a rat, even though Michael Cohen, we know, at least right now, isn't cooperating. But nonetheless, what he did in court yesterday, I think the president views as devastating, because he did. He basically implicated him in this entire thing. So yeah, I mean, this is stunning words from the president that just continues and continues. And you have to wonder, what are the investigators that are sitting around Robert Mueller thinking every day when they see these tweets?
Right, and plus, we don't know what else they have. We have no clue to a large degree. But there are now court documents filed in a courthouse by the Southern District of New York, the president's own Justice Department, not Bob Mueller. He handed this case off to them, that say the president of the United States committed 2 campaign finance felonies. Exactly. What does that mean for him? What legal jeopardy is the president of the United States in now? And what legal jeopardy would he be in, whether it's in 2 years or 6 years? He's a former president.
Right. I mean, it's clear that but for the fact that he's the president right now, he would be charged and indicted like anybody else. I think it is unlikely that they'll try to indict him while he's in office right now, and it's probably more going to become a political question of impeachment. Whether the statute of limitations would continue after he left, not really clear on that, although I think the immediacy, the urgency of that would probably be gone. I think the real issue is going to be whether he gets impeached or not.
But I think one thing we have to remind people of is that the president has a very good legal defense if he wants it, right? Which is, and I think we're going to hear this from his lawyers, which is that I authorized this payment in order to avoid embarrassment for my wife, for my family, right? If that's his defense, which is a Don Edwards defense, that is a perfectly fine legal defense. It's not so great for impeachment purposes, but it is a perfectly fine legal defense, and I think we're going to see them make use of that in the next couple of days.
But this document, this is the court case against Cohen, also says that this was paid with Trump Organization funds as reimbursements, and the government says that's an illegal corporate contribution. Do we have any indication of whether they plan to take up their case against the Trump Organization, or is this just Michael Cohen put the president on the record, we're done?
We have no indication, but you have to wonder, and I think this is where the Department of Justice and the FBI needs to come forward at some point and tell us what other information they have, what other evidence did they gather that it shows that the president was part of this, that he was cooperating with this. At some point, like everything else, this part needs to come out, because I think they owe it to the American people at this point to put this forward. Tell us what other information you have. I mean, to have Michael Cohen stand up in court and to make such accusations, right? Extremely serious. But then they also make those accusations in the filings, and also in court, prosecutors make those accusations. So now, if they don't bring charges against anyone else, well, we need to know what else they know in this investigation.
So what is the mood in Mueller's office today? The president tweeting, you lost 10. There were 18 counts. There are 8 convictions. The president trying to tweet, aha, you lost 10. If you're Paul Manafort, you're convicted of 8. And if you're sentenced on those, you spend the rest of your life in jail. But if you're the special counsel, this was trial number 1. How are you feeling today?
I think they feel like they did what they needed to do. They have some questions to consider. For example, do they retry those other hung counts? They probably have to evaluate how well Gates did. And if they're going to use him, whether it's in a retrial, whether it's in a second Manafort trial, or in other cases, because there could be an inference that some of those hung counts were related to how he came across the jury.
I think Mueller is definitely propelled today. He won on all three categories: the tax fraud, the bank fraud, the foreign bank accounts. The bank fraud is 30 years maximum. I mean, I think there was a great deal of worry at the beginning of the day yesterday that this might not turn out so well for the special counsel. I think today, this is very much after months of the president's rhetoric undermining Mueller. I think today he's propelled. Now we have a jury that is part of the witch hunt.
Juries, yeah, the deep state grows, I guess. Evan, Shimon, Shan, appreciate your coming in. We'll bring this back as we keep going next.